Hi folks, and welcome into another edition of This Week in Pearl. I'm your host, Frank Hutton. Today I've got a great show for you today. I think you're going to learn a lot about an agency you probably don't know very much about, but affects a lot of people. It is the Mississippi Department of Mental Health, and we have the director here with us today. So I think you're going to enjoy this show. I know I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to really get into what the department's about and how it affects our citizens. So stay right there, because when we come back, we'll be joined with the Director of Mississippi Department of Mental Health, Wendy Bailey. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Mayor Wyndham, and I'm thrilled to show you the city creating its own future. Pearl is located in Rankin County, the fastest growing county in Mississippi, and there's no question why. Access to great schools, even better shopping, and unbridled beauty make Pearl a town that truly embodies its name. And with a truly exceptional team of first responders, public safety is another key component of our success. With fantastic housing opportunities from quaint suburban neighborhoods to gorgeous lakefront properties, there's a place for you here in Pearl. You can't beat the location. Right outside of Pearl is the crossroads of the South, where Interstate 20 meets Interstate 55. From here you can travel anywhere within the state or the country. Or you can choose to stay right here in Pearl or experience the small town atmosphere, community pride, and heart of the local residents.
Hi folks, and welcome back into This Week in Pearl. I am your host, Frank Hutton, and now I am joined by my esteemed colleague and guest, Representative Gene Newman, and he has brought us a wonderful, fantastic guest today, Wendy Bailey, the Executive Director of Mississippi Department of Mental Health. Did I get it right?
You got it right. You did.
Wonderful. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing her.
I think I think the city of Pearl will really appreciate this young lady.
Okay, so you know her from how long have you known Wendy Bailey?
I've known her since I was in the legislature, because she's always there. whenever we're there, she's there, because she's always being pulled into hearings and this and that, because she's the expert on what we're trying to do with mental health, and we've tried to make some changes that will make a difference to not just the people that she serves, but the like law enforcement, DAs, and everybody else that deals with this issue.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's such a major role that you play, because there is so much, and we want to talk about some of that today, with mental health, and I think that causes a lot of the problems that we've talked about on this show before, right, Gene? We've talked about underlying issues of why things are the way they are. Kind of, you can bring it back to mental health, can you not?
That's it. I mean, most of the problems that's out there right now, you can pull it right back to mental health.
I mean, even these things aren't helping with people's mental health. They're hurting, because you and I just talked about this not too long about it, stuff in schools, with having these devices in schools. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us. So tell us a little bit about who you are and where you come from. Like Mama and them and all that.
Okay. I grew up in Pearl. Mm-hmm. So I was raised in Pearl, moved all the way to Brandon, became a trader, and moved up the road. That's what I
think everybody that lives in Brandon's from Pearl and was born here, right?
That's right, one way or the other.
Right.
But grew up in Pearl, moved to Brandon, started with the Department of Mental Health in 2005 out at Mississippi State Hospital. It's going to be just a temporary job until I found another one.
Okay.
And fell in love with the Department of Mental Health. I had only been there for a few months when Hurricane Katrina happened.
Wow.
And everything turned upside down, because we had several program locations on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Mm-hmm. So I just fell in love with the field, and especially with the state agency and the people that we employ. We have got some of the best state employees work for the Department of Mental Health.
Well, you say that you just kind of started as a temp job and you just never left. Now, you graduated Pearl.
I did.
And then you went off to Belhaven.
Yes, I went off to Belhaven.
Graduated from
Belhaven, and had a job, left that position to go work at Mississippi State Hospital. Mm-hmm. And then after I had been there a few years, started on my master's degree. And got my master's degree, and then just kind of moved through the agency doing a variety of things. Started out more with communications and then strategic planning for the agency, and then overall budget and working with the legislature and legislation that can impact the state, and then also looking at like our professional licensing and credentialing, workforce development, just kind of moved throughout the agency over the 20 years.
So for people who don't really understand the Department of Mental Health, is there like a synopsis or a brief
cheat sheet?
or a cheat? How can you help the average lay person like myself understand what your agency actually does?
So our cheat sheet would probably be 5 pages long.
Okay.
But I will say,
but 5 is fine.
no, I'll put it in a nutshell.
Did you bring it with you?
I did not.
Can I put it in?
So we are unique. There's only about 15 states in the nation where the Department of Mental Health has mental health, substance use, and intellectual and developmental disabilities. So all 3 of those responsibilities fall under the Department of Mental Health.
Okay.
So that means we have 11 programs across the state that provide 24/7 services. 2 that are right here in Rankin County, Mississippi State Hospital for mental health, and then Hudspeth Regional Center for people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we have 11 of those across the state.
Okay.
On any given day, there's about 950 people receiving some type of service at our behavioral health programs. And then on any given day, there's about 1,200 people receiving some type of service at our intellectual and developmental disability programs.
Like the Hudspeth Center.
Like Hudspeth Center.
So there's more of those.
There's more of those, that's right.
Okay.
And let's take Hudspeth Regional Center, for example. They have a campus located here in Pearl or in Whitfield, and then they also have community homes throughout their catchment area. And those are 10-bed homes for individuals who can live more independently than someone who's on the campus.
Okay.
But no matter what, they're receiving that 24/7 type care. And we always talk about, if you're looking at a continuum of service, the services that the state operates through our programs are the most intense level of service that someone would need. So that's the programs that we operate. We also then certify providers. So we certify about 130 providers throughout the state that provide mental health, substance use, or IDD services. Region 8, for example, that's your community mental health center for Rankin County, and they provide services through a variety of different areas on the continuum. And we certify them, and then we provide funding to the community mental health centers. And then we also certify some nonprofits and other organizations. And then we credential staff. We have about 3,700 staff that work throughout the state's mental health system that we're responsible for credentialing.
Over and above the staff that you have.
That's right.
At the department.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So mental health,
and you manage all of this.
I do the very best I can with a phenomenal team.
Fixing to say.
That's why I start off by saying we have the best state employees.
Okay, so how many state employees do you manage?
We have about 4,700 that work in our programs, our 11 programs
that's
across the state.
statewide,
That's
right?
statewide. So that's all of Mississippi State Hospital employees, Hudspeth Regional Center, and all of our other state-operated programs.
Okay.
Then we have a central office that's located in downtown Jackson, and there's about 100 staff that work there. That's where my office is located. But again, we have those statewide services.
So, okay, let me see if I can. So, really, then you're serving in the role of strategic planning.
In a lot of ways, yes.
Yeah, I fix to say, because without having that knowledge,
Right.
how can you possibly run the budget if you don't understand the strategic plan? And then how can you possibly run the department if you haven't had the strategic planning and the budgetary process as well?
I will tell you, in my 20 years of working for the agency, to me, probably the most important role that I was involved in was the strategic plan, because it gives you a view of all the services and all of the different areas within the agency. It's really easy when you get into a role that you focus on just your area. So if you're hired to work in adolescent, children and youth services, you learn that area. But because I was tasked with strategic planning for several years for the agency, it was having that broad knowledge that I was able to build, and just being able to work with other experts in those areas to see the agency as a whole.
It also makes sense being involved with the legislature.
That's exactly right.
Because with strategic planning, right, Gene? I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, if you look at her budget,
Right.
you know, most agencies you're looking at one line item, and hers is multi
I was going
lines.
to say, how does her budget break out? Because you're talking about like 3 different agencies inside really one.
Right.
Is that kind of how y'all look at it and fund it?
I think that's the way it winds up being. Yeah.
It's kind of broken out.
Yeah.
And without that strategic planning and then the legislative knowledge, knowing how to go,
That's
I
right.
guess, shake hands and ask for things. And
Well, there's
Yes.
probably what 50 bills every year that directly affect y'all, and then another 100 that indirectly affect y'all. That's introduced. I'm not saying they're passed.
Right,
I'm just saying
right.
they're introduced. That she has to shepherd. You know, kill a lot of them, but she has to shepherd to make sure that what does come out doesn't hurt more than help.
That's right. I mean, this year alone, I think we were tracking over 200 bills.
really,
That just within our
we
agency that
talked
would
about
have
a
an
few
impact.
here.
That's right. That's right.
earlier in the year that they were working on, but 200.
We were
Just this
tracking over
legislative,
200.
this past,
That's right.
that's a lot.
So that might have had a direct impact on substance use, mental health,
Sure,
or IDD,
sure.
or state employees in general, or reporting, or information and technology for the state. Just some way that it could impact either the people we serve or our employees. Yeah, there was over 200 bills this year.
That's
It's a lot. Yeah.
so you're.
And that's not including that budget, those budgets we were just
Oh,
talking
Oh yeah,
about.
that's outside of
I'm just saying,
appropriations.
that's outside of appropriations.
That's outside of
That's
appropriations.
completely. That's
a
to-
whole different beast.
So you might as well be in session as well, starting in January all the
Yes.
way through to the special
All
call.
of my family knows from January until April, if you call or text me and I don't respond, I am alive. I'm just very busy. So,
Wow, that's amazing.
good.
So I mean, here again, we're going to talk about a couple other things, but with the stuff that you're tasked with running, you would have to have a really amazing staff.
Yes.
I mean, like who works for you? Like
An amazing
who helps you
team.
manage all this?
So I have.
What's the hierarchy?
We
look
have
like?
2 deputy directors. I have a deputy executive director, Jake Hutchins. He's over behavioral health services, so that's mental health and substance use.
Okay.
And a deputy executive director, Craig Kittrell, who's over intellectual and developmental disability services. And then all of our program locations have a director. So Mississippi State Hospital, Bo Chastain, and then Jerry Barnes for Hudspeth Regional Center. So they are tasked with the operation and the management of that
Just the
program.
day-to-day and
That's
the-
right.
Right.
That's
'Cause
exactly
there'd
right.
be no way, obviously,
That's right.
that you could even.
My staff would probably tell you I'm too much in the weeds already. So
Do you have staff meetings a lot?
I had a staff meeting this morning for 4 hours. They love me.
Do they brief you and bring in all the notes?
They do, and then I ask all the questions. But it's great, and that's another
Yeah,
reason to
right.
have them that way is mental health hears from substance use hears
you're all
from
in one
IDD.
room.
That's right.
Right,
That's
right.
exactly right. And that's one thing when we have new employees come in, the very first thing that I tell them is they are a public servant. And if they do not believe that they're a public servant, then they just need to go ahead and walk out of orientation and go find a job somewhere else.
Thanks for coming, but
So, I mean, thanks for coming, but
See
if
you
you don't
later.
have a public servant's heart, you're
Right.
not a fit
well,
for our
that's
agency.
that's very true.
And then the other thing that I tell them is it's really easy, again, like I said, get in your job and you focus in on whatever just you're responsible for. And instead, you need to understand the agency as a whole, because as a public servant, you are representing the state of Mississippi and the Department of Mental Health. And I feel like we have such a vital mission. Our mission is people. It is direct services provided to thousands of Mississippians every day, who many are very, very vulnerable.
Well, I was going
And
to
they
ask.
need us.
Let's talk about some of those. Like, what types of vulnerable are out there? I mean, you think Hudspeth Center. I think of people like who have Down syndrome. I mean, but that's not just Down
That's
syndrome.
right. That's
So,
right.
what type of vulnerable people are we really talking about here?
Well, we'll start with the Hudspeth Center.
Okay.
So Hudspeth Regional Center. We have on campus about 170 people who have very, very severe intellectual and developmental disabilities. Many of those individuals cannot walk, cannot communicate, can't speak. Some cannot eat.
Wow.
They are fully dependent upon someone else for their care.
Wow.
And then you have some individuals out there who are mobile and who can, get around more and are more involved. But mainly the people on our regional campus, they're being served on a regional campus for a reason.
Okay.
And they can't live in that lesser restrictive environment, or not yet. And then you have individuals in the community homes who they have supports and services, supervised living or supported living, and they're able to live in a lesser restrictive environment.
So kind of fend for themselves a little bit.
That's right. That's
But
right.
Fix their own.
Some of them work at like places
Yeah.
like Wendy's.
I was
That's
going to say,
right.
fix their own food, manage their own,
McAllister's,
they can't
exactly.
manage their own care, and
That's right.
I got it.
You want a person to receive services in the least restrictive environment possible and to be integrated in their community.
Yes.
Be employed. Be a contributing member of society. They need a meaningful day just like we do. It's not us and them. It's a human being and a person and a citizen of Mississippi. And they deserve that right to function and just like we do. But just many times they need more services and supports. And then you have Mississippi State Hospital. So Mississippi State Hospital has a lot of different services, but one is acute psychiatric. And they have 100 acute psychiatric beds, and the only way to access those beds is through a court commitment.
Okay.
Which we've made a lot of changes in the last couple
there's
of
just
years.
100.
There's just 100 beds. We have 320 beds across the state
That
for
still-
court commitments.
still doesn't seem like
it's
a
not
lot.
a lot. It's not a lot. That's why, though, you want to make sure those beds are maximized only for people who truly need that level of care. And if anybody else can be served in a crisis stabilization unit or in home, you want that to occur. You want those state hospital beds saved for individuals who are, according to statute, a danger to themselves or others, and have gone through the court commitment process, because it's an involuntary commitment.
I think we're talking
holding
about
you
the stuff
against your will.
like I would see on the movies or something like that, where their doors are locked and everybody's wearing white and they're
Right.
sitting there playing chess against themselves and talking
It's
to
not
the
like
wind.
the movies. It's definitely not like the movies, or not
Right.
like the older movies.
Right.
But yes, it is. It's involuntary commitment.
Right.
So you were there
You're
against
not-
your will.
you're not leaving.
That's exactly right. Until a treatment team deems you're ready for discharge. So that's at Mississippi State Hospital, and those beds are extremely important because, again, you need those beds available for when a person is in that situation. But at Mississippi State Hospital, you also have a child and adolescent unit. You have a nursing home. You have a substance use disorder unit. There's 25 beds for females who have a substance use addiction and, again, are court committed to receive treatment. And then you have forensic services as well. And that's individuals who have committed a felony and either need a competency evaluation to determine if they were competent when they committed the crime, or competency restoration, which means maybe you weren't competent or you're not competent, and we need to try to restore you to competency so you can stand trial. And that's only done at Mississippi State Hospital. And
That just doesn't seem like there's enough beds for all of this.
so those are different beds.
That's a completely
That's right.
redone unit.
I
that
figured
they-
That's
Hey,
right.
this-
So for many, many, many years, the state only had 35 competency restoration beds, 35 forensic beds.
Yeah.
We just last month had a
Yeah,
ribbon
I
cutting
know, right?
for 81 bed unit,
Yeah.
maximum
But
security.
that just still doesn't seem like enough.
It's still not going to take everybody off the waiting list on day
No,
one.
Right.
But it is definitely going to open the doors to where you do have more access. The other thing is also not just always looking at that maximum security. People can get to a point where they can step down to a medium security,
Right.
or maybe even a community home. So it's my focus over the last 4 years has really been building out that continuum. We can never have enough beds,
Right.
but you don't always need a bed. So you look throughout the continuum and build all the pieces in. That's the only way to make the system
It
work.
sounds like back to strategic planning.
It is a lot of that. That's right.
So would
It
you say that's
is.
probably one of
It
your most
is.
important roles?
Yes.
Then at your department?
Yes.
Who is the person that's filling that chair right now?
So Katie Storr, my chief of staff, and Adam Moore, our director of communication and planning, they oversee the strategic plan.
Okay.
But so many people are involved in the process of strategic planning.
Right. I would
Yes.
have to think so.
In
Yes,
addition to
that's
these two
right.
facilities out here, they have Coast, they have Ellisville.
That's
right.
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 We have 11. That's
Yeah,
right.
11 of
All
them.
over the state.
I mean,
Yeah. Most people don't understand truly what the department
I'm
does.
trying to help people get an idea.
And The best thing is the tour, which that's why we encourage legislators, which Representative, he's been fantastic, because it's very, very important to see firsthand that we're serving these Mississippians for a reason, and they're dependent upon our care.
Right.
So I've seen more of them than most people because I'm
You
on
sure
the facilities
have.
management committee, and I have to go around and look at them and see how bad a shape they're.
You've had the tour.
Yeah.
And you're right, some of our buildings are getting very old.
I mean, we call it deferred maintenance, and it's on every building the state owns.
I know.
I know, right?
That's a whole different subject.
That's a
We
whole
won't get
nother. That's a whole nother show, right?
Yeah.
We'll bring in the maintenance director
Yeah.
next time. That's a whole nother show. But I'm just trying to help people understand. That just probably don't understand the differences between your department and say just the Mississippi Department of Health Services.
That's right.
That's two different things.
It is. It's important to remember we're 24/7 services, and not every state agency is. I mean, it's 24/7 operations of many individuals who've been court committed, are extremely vulnerable,
Right.
and we are charged with their care, which also goes in why you need such phenomenal employees.
Oh my gosh, yes. Highly vetted,
That's right.
very well trained. I can only imagine.
Very
like,
well trained.
If you wanted to get into adolescence, say, I mean, what would be the process you're looking for somebody to come in? What do you have to have as a degree? What kind of background do you need if you want to come in and work with children in your department?
So we have a variety of different, we need, for children, adults, everything. We need psychiatric nurse practitioners, RNs, LPNs, physicians, psychiatrists, rec therapists. Look on State Personnel Board's website and you can see a list of vacancies right now of employees that
So
we need.
If you want to work for the Mississippi Department
Yes.
of Mental Health, she's hiring.
If you want a job,
Right
I
now.
guarantee you we have one at all of our program locations across the state.
If you want to
All
move
of them.
somewhere in the States, you probably can hook you up.
Probably so. I will bring up one job, though, in particular, which
Yes.
is one of the hardest. Our programs cannot function without, which all of our employees are
IT,
essential.
right? IT,
IT,
right.
it's IT. But it is essential. I mean, it is. And that's support care. Our, what we used to call direct care workers, and they're now called support care professionals. Those are individuals who, it's a GED or a high school diploma, but they are that one-on-one patient care.
Okay.
And it's one of the most difficult jobs. It's the largest number of employees that we have is within that category, and it's one of the lowest paid. But I will tell you, again, when I took this job a little over 4 years ago, my goal was to have the average salary of a direct care support professional or support care professional at $30,000. And the start salary was $18,000 then. And we worked
4
with the
years ago.
legislature
4 years
four and a
ago.
half, 5 years ago.
Wow.
We worked with the legislature and we gave a 10% increase and a 7% increase each year, and we got it up. Right now, if you look at the support care professional category, that is including supervisors, it's at $30,000. You take the supervisors out and we're still at like $28,900. So we're almost there. And just to kind of put that in perspective, during COVID, we lost about 1,000 employees. We're about 1,000 fewer employees across the state down from where we were before COVID. Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, everybody had up signs hiring, $12, $14, $18
$20
an hour.
right.
I mean, we were paying $10 for
Right.
support care professionals. That's a very difficult job. Do you want to go make a chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A, or do you want to deal with very vulnerable adults, hands-on patient care, working sometimes B and C shifts, which are night shifts? I mean, again, it's 24/7 care, and make that or less, or go make that chicken sandwich. And we lost a lot of employees, and we've yet to really pull them back in, even with these salary increases, because it is such a difficult job, but it is such a meaningful job too, because you're changing lives, but you got to have the heart.
That's a special, unique person
It is.
that's going to do that.
It is. It is.
Yeah, and you're talking about with somebody that needs round-the-clock,
That's right.
hands-on care. So they're going to have 3 different people a day.
That's right. That's exactly right. We have 3 shifts.
And some of these folks are being difficult, and
Right.
Yes.
they don't necessarily mean to be.
Of course
but
they
that's just
don't.
what they're doing.
That's
and,
right.
And it's
The person that
it's-
works with them has to really
Yeah.
understand that going in.
That's right.
And if you, 'cause
That's
if you
gotta
don't,
be
and you react to what they're doing to you,
Right.
then you harm them, and it will harm you too.
Sure.
because-
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
but you know, back in the old days they called them orderlies, but
Right.
you know, but these people are directly helping the people that they're
Right.
serving
And,
more than
and,
anybody else.
That's
and,
right.
and I know getting those salaries up even next year, Gene, something y'all be working on again.
Yep.
I mean, it took forever to get Capitol where they are, but they're finally there, Capitol Police.
That's right.
So, I mean, this sounds like a very-
Correctional officers, same way.
same ways.
That's
I mean,
right.
this sounds like the next hot button issue right here that needs to be addressed in the next legislative session.
That's
That
right.
doesn't help everybody that's there right now, but it might in a year.
That's right. That's right. We've got to remember, and there's been a lot of work done to increase state employee salaries,
Right.
and I'm extremely grateful for that. But we do have to remember that to get good, quality, compassionate, intelligent staff, which is who you want taking care
You
of
have to
these
pay
people.
them.
You have to pay them. You do. You have to
You know,
pay
you're
them.
not going to get good quality.
That's
You're going to
exactly
get a
right.
body that's breathing.
That's right.
And that's really not what you want.
That's
You-
right.
that's what you can't have.
Right.
That's right. Especially in healthcare and in direct patient care, you can. You'll have
No.
serious incidents that are increased.
Oh, you
You've
hear
got-
horror stories all the time.
Yeah.
You see it on To Catch a Predator or whatever those shows are, where they'll show these hidden videos of orderlies or people just taking advantage of the elderly or something like that. I mean, it's just awful.
That's right. You need good employees. And when you address those direct care salaries, then
Yes.
you've got to address your LPNs and then your RNs because
Well,
everything
right.
starts
Everything
just pushing.
Starts, right.
That's
Everything
right.
starts to push up.
You got to look at the entire workforce.
But you have to be competitive.
You do.
You do.
You have to be competitive.
You do. So, we've talked a little bit about you. I don't see how you run. I don't see how she runs all of this. I mean,
Great team.
has to have. Maybe they need a raise
Obviously,
too.
I know they
very,
do.
Very smart.
Very, very smart.
I know
Because
you
you've got
do.
a lot of just to use the old phrase, you're juggling a lot of balls.
Yes.
You got a lot of balls in the air.
There's a lot of balls in the air.
There are
They
a
have-
lot going on.
But
And
I have
was
some
just
fantastic jugglers
yeah. I mean,
around me.
I was just sitting here looking through what else you do. So you serve on a few boards. You serve on the National Research Institute Board of Directors, the Southeast Mental Health Technology Transfer Center Advocacy Board, the Mississippi Department of Rehab Services Board, the State Early Childhood Advisory Council, the ABLE Board. I could go on and on and on and on and on. Suicide Prevention Task Force. When do you find time to fit all of that in?
Well, there's only 8 hours in a day.
I know, right?
Well, there's 24
there's 20
actually.
There's 24 hours in a day, and trust me, I burn a lot of those working. But I mean, my goodness. And you're a mom.
And I'm a mom, yes, and that's my number one priority.
Right.
It's you just do it. You just do it. And all of those boards and advisory councils that I'm on fit into the job, fit into the role.
Sure.
But it is difficult. It is. A lot of it is organization and being able to prioritize and being able to multitask. And then having people around you who are the exact same way. And we've got phenomenal people who work for us, and I've got a phenomenal leadership team that keeps me standing every day.
You would have to.
You do, yeah.
Because you've got to
do.
rely on them so much.
That's right. That's exactly right. And then we've got great providers in this state, and we've got great state-operated programs, and our employees that are there. It's keeping the mission at the forefront, and that's that you're serving Mississippians. That is your core mission, is the people. And then a lot of times you have to put a lot of the other to the side. And remember, your focus is on the people that are needing and receiving services. Then everything else falls into place.
Okay. I know, right? Well, when
I
you're
know.
managing it properly, everything else falls into place.
That's right.
I would
That's
think.
right.
Okay.
And we definitely have our areas that we need to improve on and we need to work on as well. But I think given the size of the agency, the responsibilities that's within the agency, I think we do an excellent job. There's nowhere else I'd want to work.
How do you manage federal dollars? Do you get?
We do.
How do you manage the federal and the state dollars? How does that work in terms of what, say, like Michael Guest and Cindy Hyde-Smith, and then how does that work?
So it's several different ways.
Okay.
We can apply for a federal grant directly. And then there's also grants that the SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, so that's the federal branch under Health and Human Services.
What is that called?
SAMHSA.
SAMHSA.
SAMHSA. Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration.
Got it.
SAMHSA.
SAMHSA. Okay.
Yes. So that's where the majority of our federal funds come in. Not all, but the majority. So we receive a mental health block grant and a substance use block grant every year. And those funds go to community providers. So they fund residential treatment in the community for people who need substance use, alcohol and drug treatment. They provide mental health services for children and youth in the community and for adults. They provide, the bulk of that goes all towards the community-based services.
Primarily federal dollars.
That's all federal.
That's feeding that.
That's all federal.
Okay.
And then people that we serve with intellectual and developmental disabilities, many times, of course, that's Medicaid, so we partner very closely with Medicaid and Medicaid match dollars that flow through. And then the intellectual and developmental disability waiver, the IDDD waiver, that's with federal funds.
Okay.
So it's a mixture. We also have a SOAR grant, which is the State Opioid Response Grant. Those are federal dollars that come to the Department of Mental Health to respond to the opioid epidemic across the state. So we have those federal dollars, and then we have general funds, and then we have healthcare funds, and then we also receive 3% of the alcohol tax dollars. And again, that goes towards substance use treatment.
Is that, I think, is that earmarked specifically
That's right,
to
substance
something?
use.
Okay.
That's
So
right.
out of your budget, then, how much is more federal versus state?
So we
How much-
have, it's a mixture. We have about, our general funds budget for this upcoming fiscal year is $257 million. The majority of that, or a large portion, I shouldn't say the majority, a large portion of that is our state operated programs because they're not Medicaid reimbursable. They rely really truly on general funds. And then a
So that's
portion of that.
100% appropriated by the legislature.
That's exactly right. So
Okay.
going back to Mississippi State Hospital, which
Right.
is down the road, if you are in an acute psychiatric bed at Mississippi State Hospital, court commitment, it is 100% general funds.
Got it.
100% general funds. That's why years ago when there were cuts, when we had some years where there were budget cuts, the majority of those cuts fell to the state hospitals because it was general funds.
Right.
So you've got the general funds, and then you've got healthcare funds, and then you've got federal dollars as well. Our mental health block grant is around $13 million. SOAR's around 14 million. Then we have our substance use block grant. Our mental health block grant's around $8 million. Our substance use block grant's around $13 million. And then we have other smaller federal grants that come in.
So it's about a third of the budget?
About a third. Probably about a third.
About a third of the budget. So it's not just a ton of budget.
That's
but
right.
But it's enough.
Yeah,
It would make
good.
it.
That's
So do you
right.
see federal funding increasing under this administration, or what's the temperature of the water?
You know, that's I think a magic 8 ball right now could tell you that as much as I could.
I mean, as much as they're cutting up there and they're talking about cutting
That's
back on
right.
things, and I get it, but mental health is a really big deal.
I would like to be optimistic and think we'll see an increase in federal dollars. I'm not sure that that's going to happen. I do know that there's been a lot of attention on mental health, and there's been a lot of national leaders speaking about the importance of mental health. We'll see how that turns out in the budget. That's a different story. But I hope that we can at least sustain what we've got. We have made so much progress with the legislature and some changes over the last several years, so much progress that I don't want to see us fall backwards any.
Two things, Gene, I can see right here. One, I can see why you made so much progress with the legislature, because she's a phenomenal director. That makes perfect sense why you would say that. But the other thing is, what's your pulse on where federal funding might be for this? What's your crystal ball tell you?
My crystal ball is all murky right now with anything to do with federal, because
Really?
you know, one person says one thing, somebody else says something else, and I'm just not real sure if the right hand knows what the left hand's doing, or if we'll have we haven't had a budget in so long, nobody really knows. We just do continuing funding. So
I know, right?
I'm betting on the continuing funding like we've been doing.
So you may not see any cuts. You don't really anticipate any cuts coming federal dollars for mental health, but you don't see any increases either, probably.
I don't see. I think we just keep doing what we've been doing because neither side has the votes to actually do a budget, and
Right.
until that happens, we're going to just keep murking it along like we're doing. The one person I haven't mentioned with a lot of differences made to her and her staff is Sam Creekmore, Chairman Sam Creekmore from up in North Mississippi, is Chairman of Public Health.
Okay.
And before he became Chairman of Public Health, when he was just another freshman with me, he pushed through some bills that really started changing the way things were done, especially with somebody who was having a mental episode in their county, rather than sticking them in a county jail and doing those kind of things.
Right, just forgetting them.
But he has really pushed trying to make some real changes that make not just people make changes up there all the time, but not just words on paper, but stuff that does things that makes a difference. And I think it's made a difference in her organization and the way they operate right now.
It has. He has been phenomenal. So Chairman Creekmore and then Vice Chairman Kevin Felsher, both of them, they sit down and they want to understand. It's not let's just make a change because somebody's made a complaint about something. It is explain the process to me, tell me why it's this way, what do we need to do to improve it, then we make a change and improve it, but then knowing we may need to go back the next year and tweak something. There were two major pieces of legislation over the last 2 years that they championed. So the civil commitment process, let's say I have 3 older sisters, so I'm going to actually just pick on one. I'll pick on the one closest to me, Penny. So my sister Penny needs mental health services. And we've tried to keep her in the community, but we need to go the court commitment route. So the way that the civil commitment process previously worked is I would go to the Chancery Clerk's office, and I would take a piece of paper and I would fill out the form, and then an affidavit would be filed, and then with Chancery Clerk, and then a writ would be issued for law enforcement. And in many cases, they would go pick my sister up at her home or wherever she was, and many times handcuff and take her to the jail. And then she would wait for a screening. And she would have a pre-screening, and then if that screening said she needed to move forward with a commitment, you would have 2 evaluations to determine if she needed a commitment, and then of course it would go before a judge, and then civil commitment. So you started off at the Chancery Clerk's office. The family member did, and then a writ is issued, and then law enforcement is involved, and then you had a pre-screening. So does that seem right?
No, of course not.
No, did not seem right.
But that's the way it was.
That was the way it was. One small tweak, honestly. Now, it has ripple effects, but you take that pre-screening and you move it to the front. So when there is an issue with my sister, and I think she might need a civil commitment, the Community Mental Health Center for that catchment area, for that county, would have a screening done. And then maybe they could divert her. Maybe they could say, we can serve her at the crisis stabilization unit, or she missed her injection and she just needs her medication, or she needs a therapy appointment
now you're
tomorrow.
talking
We'll get her in.
triage.
Exactly right. Triage and diversion.
Before you do all the other stuff.
Before you go through
and bog all
the
that other
process.
stuff down.
And imagine if you have somebody that's in a psychiatric crisis and you've handcuffed them and put them in a police car and taken them to jail.
You just made
but
it
that's
worse.
that was the process.
But you just, right.
That's right. It was not the Chancery Clerk's fault. It was not law enforcement fault. Everybody was just doing what was their role in the process. So that changed July 1st of last year. That went into effect, that change in the civil commitment process. There was also some safeguards put around. You had to have a hearing within 3 to 5 days, not 7 to 10. Have a hearing quickly, because you cannot hold someone in jail unless they are actively violent. And then it's for 24 hours, and you have to get them evaluated again, get Community Mental Health Center to look at them again. So Mississippi State Hospital, right down the road, just in the first half of that fiscal year since the law was changed, they had a 60% decrease in the number of people who came to the hospital from jail.
Decrease.
Decrease.
60% decrease in the number of admissions to the hospital that came from jail. So, tweaking the law. Now, there's been some road bumps and there's been some things we've had to smooth and work out, and a lot of communication because there's a lot of stakeholders involved in the process. It has not been just smooth sailing,
Right.
but a 60%
But it does,
decrease.
It does seem better. And then the
Yes.
individual is actually getting the
That's right.
support that they need instead of getting
Exactly
home.
right.
At
At home,
At
or in
home,
their local
right.
community
Or-
at the,
right.
the crisis stabilization unit.
Right. I think mainly
That's
at home,
right.
as you're pointing out. It's at
Yes.
home.
They're
That's
not in
right.
jail.
Right.
And not
You're
in
not taking
jail.
up a bed that we need for some perpetrator who actually did something wrong.
That's right. So, I mean, and there's a caveat in there. So, let's say you have someone who is in psychosis and who doesn't want that pre-screening done, and they're not, I mean, you have that caveat of you can go ahead and file the affidavit in the writ and move forward, but you attempt to do the screening. You try to do the screening first. So,
Now,
it's made a big difference.
How does the screening happen? I mean,
So,
so does Penny just
that's
decide to
good.
go down there, or do you have to
That's right.
like take her by the hand by somebody and take her
So
to
maybe
the
I
screening?
can take Penny by the hand, but maybe I can't.
Right.
And that's where mobile crisis response teams come in.
Okay.
So the state is funding a mobile crisis response team for every community mental health center region.
Okay.
And that's a team of people who can respond 24/7 in person.
Okay.
So let's say I can't get Penny to Region 8, but I could call the mobile crisis response team and Region 8 could send someone out.
So they come to her.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's the
And
whole point of
you're
mobile
meeting,
crisis
You're
response.
meeting the situation, the problem, the issue where they are.
That's right.
You're
And it's
not-
a team. It's not just one
I
person.
figure to say it's not
Right.
somebody with a badge and a gun and a taser
Right.
That's it.
and some handcuffs.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
you just led right into the next piece of legislation: law enforcement.
Right.
Law enforcement. That's you. You
But
want
law enforcement's great, but they're
That's
not
right.
trained to deal with that.
You want a mental health professional to respond
Right.
if at all possible. There's some situations that, again, a master's level mental health professional is not law enforcement, and some situations may call for law enforcement to be involved for public safety.
Obviously.
So,
sure.
but that was another thing that Chairman Creekmore and Vice Chairman Felsher did, is they looked at House Bill 1222 requires law enforcement training now. So you've got two different types of law enforcement training. You have crisis intervention team training, which is a 40-hour training. That is very in-depth. There's de-escalation techniques that are taught. There's role play that's going on. We bring in individuals who's received services, providers in that area. It's very in-depth training. House Bill 1222 requires at least one officer in a municipal or county entity to be trained in CIT, at least one CIT officer by June 30th of this year. So the deadline we're just about 2-3 weeks away from. They've all got to have at least one. Right now I think we have 76 of 82 counties now have a CIT officer. So that's very important, because if you do have to respond to somebody in a behavioral health crisis, it needs to be your CIT officer. They've been trained. They have those extra tools in their toolbox. Then mental health first aid is an 8-hour training, so it's not nearly as intense, but it still gives law enforcement officers an understanding of mental health and how to respond to someone in a behavioral health crisis. And that is every law enforcement officer
that's been added into the
across
academy.
the state.
Has it?
It has. It has, and it is. We have until the state has until 2031 for all officers to be trained. That is an evidence-based practice you have to do in small groups.
Sure.
So you can't do like a training for 300 people at one time. So that's why they gave multiple years for us to reach that goal. But it's every officer in the state would have mental health first aid
Well,
training.
I think that's necessarily needed.
That's right.
I mean, this isn't Mayberry anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really not where you know everybody and you know their mom and them and you know where they came from, so
Yeah.
you're able to help. It's not like that anymore.
That's right.
And officers are looking at it black and white. You either broke the law or you didn't.
Yeah.
And they're really great people, and I know a lot
They
of
are.
them. I know a lot of them. But they also are human beings, and they didn't go to school to be a mental health professional.
They did not. You're exactly right. The mental health professional is not a law enforcement
No.
officer, and law enforcement is not
No.
mental health. But they do work hand in hand
They
so
do.
well.
They
and
do.
they need both sides of that.
And
Yeah.
so you've been real busy.
Yes, but it's been phenomenal. I mean, it's amazing to be able to see that.
Well, sure. Isn't that wonderful, though?
It is. It is absolutely wonderful. And I have seen law enforcement officers that, let's just say, maybe they're not thrilled to go through the training on day
at
one.
the beginning,
and then on day 5.
Day 5, it's a little bit right.
Yes. So that's always great to see. And then there were a lot of people a little skeptical of the change in the civil commitment process, because again, that's the way we've always done it here in Mississippi. But
yeah, I want to talk about that.
Making that change was a good thing.
Just because it's the way you've always done it doesn't mean it's the right way to do it.
Oh, exactly. I cannot stand when I ask somebody why we're doing something a certain way.
That doesn't make it right.
No.
It just means you get it done, but it doesn't mean it's right.
That's right. Change is not always bad. Change is usually good.
Okay, so now that we have a better understanding, I was looking forward to this when Gene said he was bringing you, because he and I and of course, we've talked about this before. We have a homeless problem in this country that we shouldn't have. Number one, we shouldn't have it. Not in the United States of America. No one should be hungry or homeless. No one. Just shouldn't be. And I kind of want to get your take on, why do we have so many veterans, and why do we have so many people wandering the streets and Gateway Rescue Mission busting at the seams? Where's the disconnect here? What are we missing?
I think we're missing several pieces of a puzzle.
Please tell me.
And it's not just one. It's safe and secure housing and affordable housing. And affordable is a key factor there. So having affordable housing, and then employment. And you can sometimes, especially with mental health and substance use, you can get into a spiral where maybe you can't find employment because you've had a felony.
Right.
And then if you can't find employment, are you going to be able to have income in order to have an apartment? So it's multiple things. It's untreated mental illness. It's untreated substance use disorders many times. It is a lack of affordable housing. It is a lack of, I think, a coordinated, supported employment effort. And then it's health insurance as well, having access to health insurance as well in order sometimes for you to afford the first two. So it's many multitude of missing pieces. But there's pockets of where there's programs that are working and it is helping. Tupelo is doing, I think, an excellent job at addressing the homeless population, and they've got a lot of different groups working together. Even in Hinds County, Hinds Behavioral Health Services Region 9, they have a drop-in center. So if you have a serious mental illness or a substance use disorder, you can come in during the day and they build that relationship with you. And for someone who has substance use, mental health, and veterans as well, a lot of it's trust. You have to build a trusting relationship with someone, and for them to then trust you, for you to work on their mental health issues or get them into substance use treatment. But they can address that, and they also help with supported employment and getting signed up for benefits such as Medicaid or Medicare or SSA. They can work on all of those different things in that drop-in center. And we've seen some incredible progress, and people turn their lives around. I think you got to have caring people, and you have to have programs like that that's going to address multiple aspects, not just one. But even when you look at housing and mental health, so you have individuals who need permanent supported housing. But if you get them the housing and they're not receiving their mental health treatment, it's not going to work. If they're receiving their mental health treatment and they don't have that safe housing, it's
still not going to work.
That's right. You have to address, we call it holistic, the whole person.
I think the same way, and necessarily like a holistic need. I need first of all, I need to feed you. That's the first thing, because you can't get anywhere if you on an empty stomach. So you got to feed the body. First thing. Second thing is you got to clothe the body, and the third thing is you got to put a roof over the body.
That's
Let's just start there.
That's right.
Now, I'm not a big advocate for communes or free housing. I'm not, but I kind of am when it comes to this issue. I would rather see, and I've thought about this, we've talked about this long and hard, but a program to where if you are homeless, we'll find you a place to live, an apartment building. We're going to put you there. And we're going to put people, you talk about being one-on-one counselors with you. We're going to put people in that building that are going to be with you every day. We're going to get you dried out or off drugs, whatever we have to do to help you and support you. Not lock you up,
That's right.
but give you a place to eat, sleep, and clean up.
That's exactly
We're going
right.
to start there. No pressure. We're just going to start there.
That's right.
And build you a community where you start relying on each other. Then we start filling in the gaps with the mental health stuff. It's a long road. I get it. And maybe this is pie in the sky help. But I'm thinking we've got plenty of buildings around this state that sit empty that would be easy to convert, or with a little bit of money from the state, convert these into communal housing projects. Not ugly looking place. I mean a nice place. I don't mean something you just stuck a bed in there. I mean a nice place, something you would be proud to be, but almost a halfway house kind of thinking here. Am I just dreaming, or?
So let me tell you a personal experience.
Okay.
A person that I know, a veteran, living under a bridge in Jackson,
Okay.
has extreme anger issues. I mean, they had a good life at one point in time and got off on drugs, and they lost their life, and
Yeah,
you know,
drugs the
lost
devil.
their job,
Sure.
lost their life. You know, so
Yeah.
now they're living under a bridge, and they got extreme anger issues. They don't trust anybody.
Right.
And a person from the church got this person into the drop-in center down there where she's talking about, and they kept working with him, and finally got him trustworthy enough that he got on the medicine that he needed to be on,
Right.
and they got him into an apartment. And I say it's apartment. It's a room.
Sure.
And they've got some facilities like that scattered around Jackson that will house these folks, and so they got him stable, they got him on his medicine,
Right.
and they helped him get his VA benefits and his he's starting to get a check every month, and so he had money to pay his rent.
Right.
And he has money to get food with,
Right.
and he's stable, and he's been there for about 3 or 4 months now. And he's been, all the way from under a bridge with extreme issues.
It's a slow process.
And so he's doing a lot better. He's doing really good right now. We'll see how long he can continue to do that, but he can stay. This is a temporary place or a permanent place. They've got it fixed where he can stay there as long as he wants to, as long as he pays this. I mean, when I say a rent, it's like $100 a month or something.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. So, and he gets enough from the VA that he's got that taken care of. So that's what's got to happen.
But we need
Because-
that on a larger scale.
And think about how complex that just was.
I was thinking to say, but
It
this is
was
one person from First
housing.
Baptist Jackson that started that process.
Right.
Right.
And that was housing that was addressed, medication that was
Uh-huh.
addressed, therapy that was addressed,
Right.
food that was addressed, and then you've got the check, them getting their check, getting their benefits.
See, that brings me back to that one person that you have to have that one person that's with them all the time.
Yeah.
That's got to help, basically a hand up.
And Mississippi does have a great program called the Choice Housing Program, which the legislature funds, and it's housing vouchers. Now that's specifically for people who've had multiple admissions to a state hospital. So
Okay.
you've been at Mississippi State Hospital, East Mississippi State Hospital, North or South State Hospitals multiple times, and you need stable housing.
Right.
We've moved into other categories too, where you may not have to have multiple admissions. You're just in a crisis situation. You need stable housing. And there's a voucher that you can receive for up to 12 months, sometimes some extended, and you receive housing in the community, and it helps pay for your rent each month. And then you have housing units across the state that are involved, and set aside 1 or 2 or 3 units for people who need those choice vouchers. But then they have their housing address with that choice voucher, but then also they're part of like a PAC team, which is a program of assertive community treatment, or an I-Court team. They're receiving services from the community mental health center, addressing their mental health condition as well. And then so it ties into, so with the choice housing voucher, there was a 1% readmission rate last year. 1% of the people who were receiving choice housing vouchers had to go back to state hospital. So it works. When you're addressing,
that's an
yes,
exceptionally low number.
That's right. Just like PACT works, Programs of Assertive Community Treatment, it wraps the services around you in the community because you've had multiple admissions to a state hospital. So there was a 6% readmission rate with people receiving PACT services. These intensive services,
a low number.
It is. These intensive services that address the issue from a holistic approach work.
How many people fall out of that system percentage-wise that just don't make it?
That just don't, that as far as to say I don't want to receive my PACT services, you know, I don't know. I don't have that data. I know
there's probably
right.
somebody.
Oh,
There's at
I'm
least
sure.
one in
Yes,
everything.
you have. That's right. You can always say, and PACT is intense. They come into your home to make sure you're taking your medication,
Right.
receiving your therapy. So yes, there's some people who go, no, I do not want to receive that level of service. It definitely happens.
So what do we do with them?
So with
Because
those
it's almost
individuals,
we don't want them to get.
you don't want them to get lost.
No,
you don't
you
want them to
don't.
fall through the cracks. A lot of that is just, it takes a lot of work. And again, it goes back to building that trust. It's that relationship between that mental health provider and that individual and building that trust. I think another thing is a lot of times people look at mental health or a substance use disorder as a moral failing. And it's not.
I was going there next.
It's not.
Well, I was going there next, and so I'm going to ask my question. So
Okay.
this is something that we have discussed before because we have a mental health issue in this country.
Yes.
But we need to move it from it being a negative connotation, get it out from underneath that to where it's not bad to talk about it anymore. And it's okay to talk about how you feel or something that's
right.
going on with you, or you're not quite right up here. It's got a screw loose, as we call it.
Yes.
You know, not being mean to anybody,
No, I
but
know.
yeah, so we don't need to make that a bad thing.
That's right. That's right. And that's what when we were talking about readmission.
How do we do that? How do
somebody
we
fall into
change the culture,
change the dialogue,
the thinking?
Yes.
How do we do that?
Well, I think it's multiple things. For example, you said that individual who might say, I don't want to receive PACT services
Right.
anymore. One thing is to understand that mental health and substance use recovery is non-linear. It is not just
Right. It's not on the,
you're going to
Yeah,
have you're
right.
gonna have, with substance use, you may slip back into
Right.
old ways, as they would say, and I mean it is non-linear, but recovery is always possible and can always happen. So it's making sure that people who have mental health conditions and substance use disorders understand that it's not a moral failing, it's not something you did, it's not a choice you made,
Right.
and recovery is not always just smooth sailing. It's okay to not be okay.
It's okay
at
to
times.
fail.
That's right. So it's
Right.
really changing the way that we talk about it to make the people around us open to talk about it. I think one of the most important things, though, is peer support, and that's having individuals who have lived experience, they have a mental health condition or they have a substance use disorder, sharing their story. It is one
That sounds
thing.
like AA.
Yeah, yes, it's called peer support.
I think that sounds like AA or NA.
That's right. We have over 200 certified peer support specialists working in our state who their job is to provide peer support, share their lived experience, walk with someone else in their recovery, and that makes all the difference. Mobile crisis response teams that we talked about, PACT teams that we talked about, both of those are required to have a peer support specialist on them. And many times those teams will tell you that peer support specialist makes the most difference. I mean, it's incredible, but that's because you have someone sharing their own lived experience.
Do you need more than one? Because it sure seems like
We need so many
it sure
more.
seems like the team needs a lot more than just one.
You do. Well, you need a lot of peer support specialists, and we need to change the way that we look at peer support and understand that it is extremely valuable and that they need to be part
That's
of
kind
the
of where I
team.
go back to like what we were just discussing about the gentleman that started under the bridge. It is peer support. It's somebody that may have been there,
That's right.
may have been homeless, whatever, but that person in my mind, and I could have wrong thinking, but if I do, help me out. But you bring somebody into that situation, Gene, where they have a roof over their head. It's been 3 months. Where is that peer support person that's saying you can continue to do this? Don't fail here. Don't stop
That's
here.
right.
Keep moving forward. You know, where is that person in that man's life? Is it still the guy that brought him from church? You know, at some point, is he always going to be there, or is that peer support person going to be there? That's kind of where I'm at, and I am not the guy to throw money at something. That's not the answer. Throwing more money at a problem never solves it. It just makes the problem worse.
Well, it's like AA. You that peer person that you're looking at. If you keep that person in contact with this one, even when they fail, pick them back up.
It's your accountability buddy, basically, is what I'm talking about. If you look at it from AA or NA, it's your accountability buddy. But where I'm going is does it make sense to fund your agency with more money to hire more of those people to be able to do exactly what is going on right now with this gentleman that Gene Newman's mentioning?
Yes.
Does that make more sense?
Yes.
Does it make sense to say, okay, legislator, I can do this much more with X if you will appropriate me Y?
Absolutely, and definitely with peer support. Again,
Because to me, peer
numbers
support
are there.
seems, we can do all the other stuff. But if you have that one-on-one with that individual that you're holding their hand, literally holding
That's
their
right.
hand through the process, that to me is more than anything else, because they've got somebody to lean on. Trust. They trust that.
trust.
They trust that person. They start trusting that agency.
That's
and
right.
I know I don't want to throw money at it, but should we put some more money at it?
Yes, peer support definitely needs it. The salaries for peer support specialists need to be
Need
up.
to
Now,
be-
that is not
right.
something that the state controls because it's providers that are employing them.
Right.
So that's also having our providers have a mindset and understand the value in peer support and why
But
they
now
need
some
to
of
hire
that's
peer
federal
support
dollars
specialists.
that's coming down.
Some is.
Some of that's federal, because we talked about that earlier. Some of that's federal money.
That's right.
So
That's
I know
right.
there's a lot of cogs in this
Yes.
wheel. I get it. And here again, I'm just saying that maybe we could solve it, but it takes money and people and time.
It does, especially in the area of mental health. So
Yeah.
IDD, mental
Right.
health, and substance use. The bulk of the money goes to the workforce because it's employees that are providing the care
Well,
and
this
the
is
service.
direct human interaction.
It's exactly right. Whether it's a psychiatrist or a certified peer support
We're not talking
specialist
about
or a nurse.
we're not talking about trucks and planes
It's-
and buildings.
It's
And
right.
We're talking about people.
It's
Right.
people, which leads you to you need a really good, competent workforce, which means when we're training people that are going through schools and training
Mm-hmm. Right.
programs,
Right.
they need to understand this, and we need to try to do as best as we can to keep people in our state working and not lose them to surrounding states. You've got to have that workforce.
What's the age group primarily that fits best for you in the workforce?
In the workforce, so do you mean a current like state employee workforce?
Yeah, I mean, what would you say, and I'm kind of nitpicking
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, but where is that age that you've got the patience of Job
Oh.
and you're not spent?
Oh,
Where
I
is
don't
that?
know.
Where is that group? Is that 35 to 50?
Probably so. I will say it is more and more difficult to recruit people out of college or in their 20s into state government.
Yeah, they're too
That's
young.
our smallest population.
Of course, I get that.
Yeah, so
for
that's
all
the
across the board.
hardest. That's
Sure.
the hardest to recruit.
Right.
They don't understand the value of retirement system and how much you're really going to want that
Hey,
when you're 20 years in.
I didn't.
I know, but you know now. But
Of
you
course.
didn't year one.
Right, no.
So that's the hardest to recruit. I would say 30s, 40s, and definitely into your 50s. You have that understanding, that knowledge. You've worked.
Life experience.
Life experience, exactly. Life experience.
Invaluable. Because I didn't
That's
mature
right.
until I was 40. I mean, I didn't figure out, really what I was doing until I hit 40.
I think that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people.
I don't mind admitting it. My kids were 20 when I finally figured out who Frank was. I mean, but I get why
Yeah.
I'm saying that, because that group. So really, that group then is the group you've got to pay.
Yes, absolutely. And that's
Because in the professional world, they can go out and make so much more
Oh
money.
my goodness, yes. It's not just recruitment, it's retainment.
It's retainment.
So it's keeping those valuable employees.
Right.
And that is morale. So what you do internally for your workplace to make sure that they feel heard and valued and
Right.
respected. And then it is, what are they bringing home at the end of the month that's going to pay their mortgage and keep their lights on and keep food on the table. I mean, it's addressing all of those issues. But we can't do our job without the workforce. We cannot do our job without our employees.
And you manage all of this.
And all of my team does too. All my great people that surround me. So, and we've made a lot of progress. There is still far to go.
Oh yeah.
Do not get me wrong. There are gaps in the
Right.
system. There
Sure.
are areas like intellectual and developmental disability crisis. Children in child protective service custody that needs mental health services and stable environments. There are so many gaps that we need to try to work towards and address.
right.
But the state has made tremendous progress.
How are
as
we
well.
compared to other states?
Well, I'll give you one piece of data. So,
Okay.
you know, I'm on the National Research Institute board that you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And so this data has not even been published yet. But one thing that's
Breaking-
looked at,
breaking now.
Yeah, not published. But one thing that they look at nationally is readmission rates. So readmission rates to the state hospital.
Okay.
And they look at 30 days after you leave state hospital, do you have to be readmitted? And 180 days after you leave state hospital, so 6 months, do you have to be readmitted? They look at those two readmission rates. So last fiscal year for the data, the national average for a readmission rate for 0 to 30 days state hospital was 9%. Mississippi, we were 3%. Only 3% of people who were discharged from the state hospital had to come back within the first 30 days. Nationally, it's 9%.
Dang.
Readmission rates for 180 days, nationally, it's 21%. 21% of people who are discharged from a state hospital within 6 months have to come back.
No kidding.
Mississippi, 9%.
Wow.
We're doing really good on our readmission rates to the state hospital.
What do you attribute that to?
I can tell you, I think some of that is attributed to we do have a little bit longer length of stay than some states.
What's our average length of stay?
So our average length of stay is about 35 days.
Okay.
In some states, it's around 20. So we are many times, not always, some of our state hospitals average about a 25-day length of stay. It ranges. But the longer you stay, the more stable you become on your treatment plan. You have more time to work again on that holistic approach.
Right.
Do you need housing? Do you
Right.
need support employment? Who are you transitioning to provide that care when you leave? Making sure you've got that follow-up appointment. Making sure you have your medication until that follow-up appointment. All of those things have to be addressed. And we have areas we need to work on within that too, but I think we do a good job. And it's shown in the readmission rates. We're lower than the
It
national
really
average.
takes people who care what they're doing.
It does. It takes people who care what they're doing, who are looking at that individual. You're not just a box that they've got
You're
to
an-
check
you're
to
a
get off their
person.
desk for the day. You're a person, and
Right.
what do you need?
Right.
What do you need? It's person-centered care.
Very much so. Has it always been like that?
No, it is not. It's not. And you know, it was a national movement, and Mississippi was behind on getting some of this done, but we're making progress.
So you have a good team
Great team.
in that area
Fantastic team.
that
Yes,
care.
that's
And
right.
that's really what it boils down to.
Exactly
It's people
right.
that care.
It's people that care. It's paying attention to data, to where you see where there's issues and where you do need to work on something, or you might have you need to tweak this, or you need to change this policy, or you need to. So it's paying attention and looking at data, looking at the outcomes. Is something working or is it not? Because I'm like you, don't just throw money at it.
Right.
If it's not working, stop throwing money at it. Move that money to
Right.
something that's working.
That is working.
That's exactly
Right.
right. That's exactly right. So it's all of that, but at the core of it, it's having compassionate public servants that are working in the system.
And we have a Pearl girl leading it.
And Pearl girl leading it.
But
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, my leadership team tells me all the time, you can take the girl out of Pearl, but you can't take Pearl out of the girl.
That's very true.
Yes.
Why would you want to?
I agree. I mean,
The proof's in the pudding, right? I mean,
Yes.
let's just look at the successes that you have going on here.
well, again, it's incredible people who really believe in what they do, and so much support from the legislature and from advocacy groups and from other providers.
Well, you
It's
know why you
everybody
have
working
all of
together.
that is because you're an
Working together.
effective, good leader who's gone out and recruited good
We're
people,
trying.
and
We're trying.
and the legislature recognizes that and is rewarding your effort. So that's what it looks like to me from an outsider hearing what's going on. That's
Well,
what
I
I'm.
shoot straight. I share the bad data too. I share that we had this many people in jail last year. We got to do something about
Well-
the data too.
Yeah, I mean,
Good and the bad.
good and the bad.
Good and the bad.
Right.
That's right.
If Trump hasn't taught us anything, it's definitely be upfront about everything that's going on. Us don't hide anything.
I
All out in the
completely
open.
agree on that because you can't address a problem if you don't know it's a problem.
Right.
And
Let's name it first.
That's right. You got to name it, and then
Right.
you've got to come up with some creative ways to solve it because you don't always have the money to put at it. So, what are some creative ways to solve it? And then making sure you have all the stakeholders working together.
Right.
And don't just do what you've always done.
Yes.
Right,
Thank
Gene.
you. Thank you.
Don't always, yeah, right. I totally agree with that 100%. This has been a great conversation. I mean, we could go all day. I mean, we really could. But this has been great. Have you had a good time?
I have. I've really enjoyed it. I've had a good time. I hope people have stuck through the whole thing. I don't know if anybody's going to want to listen to me talk for an hour.
Okay, they will, I promise.
But it's been good conversation, and I appreciate you bringing this to the forefront with your show because there's so many people who still don't want to talk about mental health and substance use and IDD. And the more we talk about it, the more we can change
But we
things.
need to. If we're going to change the lives of people
That's
who
right.
are not fortunate like we are, who have substance abuse, who are homeless because of whatever issue, if we're going to change their lives, if we truly care about it, we will discuss it and talk about it and then do something about it.
That's right.
That's
Just
it.
quit talking about it and start doing something. Not throw money at it, but some real change.
That's right. Problem solved.
Let's hire some people that care and go reach out and say, hey, come with me. Let's help you.
Yeah. One person at a
One
time.
person at a time.
One person
That's
at a
exactly
time.
right. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having
We'll
me.
have you back.
Okay.
This will be great. And what we should do is we should have you back, but we should come to your place and
that'd
let
be
you
great.
take our viewers on a tour
Well, that would be fantastic.
and just
We can
kind
look
of
at that.
highlight some of the things that you've talked about
Okay.
today. That would be fun.
Yeah, we can do that.
We may
Absolutely.
make that happen in the fall.
Oh, that'd be great. Mental Illness Awareness Week is in October.
Well, then book it, Dano.
That's it.
We'll book it for October. Make a
Okay.
note of that back there, team, that we need to book it, especially you, Kim. Make a note back there that we need to get in touch with you and make sure we
Sounds good.
do a show out there and just kind of show everybody kind of what we've been talking about. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you for bringing her.
I appreciate her
I see-
coming. I've watched the job she's been doing all these years, and she does really good work. And she's extremely smart, extremely capable, and we're proud of her.
And she's a Pearl girl.
That's right.
Even more proud of her for that, right? Absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hey, I've been enlightened. This is fantastic. Loved every second of it. So when we come back, we're going to talk about what's going on this week in Pearl. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Mayor Wyndham, and I'm thrilled to show you the city creating its own future. Pearl is located in Rankin County, the fastest growing county in Mississippi, and there's no question why. Access to great schools, even better shopping, and unbridled beauty make Pearl a town that truly embodies its name. And with a truly exceptional team of first responders, public safety is another key component of our success. With fantastic housing opportunities from quaint suburban neighborhoods to gorgeous lakefront properties, there's a place for you here in Pearl. You can't beat the location. Right outside of Pearl is the crossroads of the South, where Interstate 20 meets Interstate 55. From here you can travel anywhere within the state or the country. Or you can choose to stay right here in Pearl or experience the small town atmosphere, community pride, and heart of the local residents.
Welcome back into This Week in Pearl. I'm your host, Frank Hutton. And as I thought, that was a very informative information from Wendy Bailey talking about the Mississippi Department of Mental Health Services. It's amazing all the things they have going on and what she is directly responsible for. I mean, we could have probably talked for several hours about her department and all the lives and the type of people that she touches. It's amazing what they do over there. I applaud her efforts, and I really appreciate Gene Newman, our state representative, bringing her in with him today. Okay, so what's going on in Pearl? Well, let me tell you. right now, football and cheer registration is going on. We're right in the middle of it. So if you want to register your child for City League football and cheer, you have until June the 30th of this month. You can visit the pearlparksandrec.com website. That's pearlparksandrec.com. And click on register and get your child registered. Spots are limited. So if you want them to play football or want them to be a cheerleader, go ahead and do it right now. Don't wait. Get online and register at pearlparksandrec.com. You can also call the main office at Pearl Parks and Rec for more information, 601-932-3541. All right, Main Street Pearl, wide open still with their summer concert series this Friday night coming up on the 13th of Friday. Yes, it is Friday the 13th. Coming up is Steel Hollow. They will take the stage at 7 p.m. right out here behind City Hall in the green space. Fantastic spot. It's going to be a wonderful night. Bring your lawn chair with you because there are no chairs unless you just want to stand. Concessions are available. These guys, they are a southern rock, kind of outlaw country, 90s inspiration rock band. So I think you'll really enjoy this bunch. Concessions are served out here, so you don't have to worry about being thirsty or hungry. You can get something right out here while it's going on. But it is Steel Hollow, June the 13th, this Friday, coming up at 7 p.m. Also, Mississippi Mud Monsters baseball going in full swing. So be sure and catch a game or two. They're a lot of fun. They've been on a winning streak lately, by the way. So you need to go check them out at Trustmark Park, what we call the Swamp. You can go to mudmonstersbaseball.com, ticket information, and the upcoming schedule. Hey, look, I've had a great time today. Fantastic conversation with Director Wendy Bailey from Mississippi Department of Mental Health. We really appreciate Representative Jean Newman bringing her in. Great conversation. But thank y'all so much for joining us. Until next week, y'all have a great week.